Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to today's Arabic grammar lesson. The topic today is pronouns in Arabic. First, let's understand what a pronoun is. In English, a pronoun is a word used to refer to someone or something instead of the noun. For example, it, we, she, I, etc. In Arabic, we also have pronouns for things and people. One slight difference is that there is no word for it. This is due to the fact that in Arabic, all words have a gender assigned to it. For who and here, he and she, depending on whether it is masculine or feminine. To summarize the above point, all words in Arabic have genders and all can have different pronouns. Now let's move on to the pronouns themselves. We have 14. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. Ana, nahnu. One thing I would like to mention before I break them down and translate them is that in Arabic, pronouns and words all have three forms: singular, dual, and plural. In English, we only have singular and plural. We do not have the dual. But in Arabic, the additional dual represents two people or two things. Now let's go through the pronouns. The first group is masculine and third person. They include huwa, huma, and hum. First is huwa. This means he or he is, and is in male singular form. For example, huwa marid. Huwa, he is, marid, sick. He is sick. The next one is huma. This is a dual form of huwa, and would roughly translate as to two males, or the word he, but referring to two people. For example, huma taliban. Huma, those two, taliban, students. Those two students. One thing to note before moving on is that in dual and plural forms of sentences, the pronoun and the noun itself are both in either dual or plural form depending on the context of the sentence, as seen in the previous example of Taliban being in dual form despite it having the dual pronoun. The next one is hum. This is the plural version of huwa. For example, hum muslimun. Whom they are, muslimun, Muslims. They are Muslims. Here we have the same as the dual, where both the pronoun and the noun are in the same form, in this case plural. Before we move on to the next group of pronouns, let us summarize what we have learnt so far. We have learnt the first three: huwa, huma, and hum. They are all in male form and are referring to the third person. Huwa is singular, huma is dual, and hum is plural. Now let's move on to the feminine third person pronouns. Again, we have another three: hiya, huma, and hunna. The first is hiya. This is like she or she is, and is in singular form. For example, hiya tabiba. Hiya, she is. Tabiba, a doctor. She is a doctor. Notice how the word tabib has a ta marbut at the end. As with dual and plural, the noun and the pronoun will both be in the same gender of words, in this case, feminine. The next pronoun in this group is huma. This is a dual form for she is and would mean those two or those two are. Those paying close attention will realize that this is the same word as the same pronoun as the dual form of the third person male. To differentiate in this case, we would look at the noun to see if it refers to male or female. For example, huma talibatan. Huma, those two, talibatan, students. Those two students. The student is referring to feminine. There we could tell that the pronoun was referring to the feminine gender due to the suffix of the noun, alif and ta, and the nun, showing that it is in feminine form. The last pronoun of this category of the third person is hunna, which means they in female form. This is a plural over here. For example, we have hunna mudarrisat. Hunna, They are mudarrisat, teachers, in female form also. They are female teachers. Before we move on to the second person, let us summarize what we have learnt so far in the third person. So far, we have learnt that pronouns in masculine, they are huwa, huma, and hum, and feminine, which are hiya, huma, and hunna. They are all in the masculine and all refer to the third person. Huwa and hiya are both in singular form, translating to he and she. Huma is the pronoun in dual form for both masculine and feminine. And huma and hum and hunna are both in plural, referring to the word they are. Hum and hunna are both in plural form. Now let's move on to the next category of pronouns. This time we have the second person form, where you would be referring to someone directly. Let's start with the masculine ones. They are anta, antuma, and antum. The first one, anta, is translated as you in singular form and is, for example, anta sa'iq. Anta, you are, sa'iq, driver. You are a driver. The next pronoun is antuma. This is the dual form of you, so it translates as you too. For example, antuma tajiran. Antuma, you two. Tajiran, two businessmen. You two are businessmen. The last pronoun of the masculine second person group is antum, which is the plural of you. This roughly translates as you all. For example, antum kadhibun. Antum, you are all, kadhibun, liars. You are all liars. Now, before we move on to the feminine version of the second person pronouns, let us summarize the last three. These are anta, antuma, and antum, which fall into the second person group referring to you. Anta for singular male, antum for dual male, and antuma plural male. Now let's move on to the feminine side of the second person pronouns. As all the other categories, we have another three: anti, antuma, antunna. The first one is anti. This is the same as anta, but is for feminine and translates as you for feminine type. For example, anti jadida. Anti, you are, jadida, good. You are good. The next one is antuma. This is the dual form for you in feminine and is also the same word as the male dual in the second person also. To tell the difference between the masculine and feminine, we will look at the suffix at the end of the noun as we did for the dual pronouns in third person, huma. Now let's do an example. Antuma tabbakhtan. Antuma, you two are, tabbakhtan, chefs. You two are chefs. We could tell in this case that the antuma was referring to feminine as the noun ends with the ta, alif, and nun. The last pronoun in the second person group is antunna. This is in plural form of feminine second person and will translate to you all in feminine form. For example, antunna mumarridat. Antunna, you all are, mumarridat, nurses. You all are nurses. Let's now summarize the second person pronouns before we go to the first person pronouns. In second person, we had 6 pronouns: anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. 3 masculine: anta singular, antuma dual, antum plural. And 3 feminine: anti singular, antuma dual, and antunna plural. Now let's move on to the last category of pronouns, first person. Here it is same pronouns no matter gender. Furthermore, there are only 2, ana and nahnu. The first one is ana. This means I or I am and is the same for masculine and feminine. For example, ana katib. I am, katib, a writer. I am a writer. Or if it's a female saying, they would say ana katibah. with the ta marbuta at the end of the katib. I am a female writer. The last pronoun is nahnu, which means we. It is the same for both dual and plural. For example, nahnu banna'un. Nahnu, we are. Banna'un, builders. We are builders. Now let's summarize everything we have learned today. In Arabic, we have 14 pronouns. Furthermore, there are 5 categories. Third person male, third person female, second person male, second person female, and first person. Same for whether male or female, is the same. Each pronoun also has 3 forms: singular, dual, and plural. A good way to remember them and memorize them is by learning the pattern going huwa huma hum, hiya huma hunna, anta antuma antum, anti antuma antunna, ana nahnu. Huwa huma hum, third person male, hiya huma hunna, third person feminine, anta antuma antum, second person masculine, anti antuma antunna, second person feminine, ana nahnu, first person. If you learn them in this order and forget what one means, you can just work it out as the ordering is divided in the different forms, i.e. in the persons and gender. This brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope you have been able to come along the whole video and understand. If there is any part you don't understand, try repeating that part of the video. If that doesn't make sense, you may DM me at shihab_uddin1 or message in the comments so I can explain it again. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.